Hello, Strong Start to Finish Network. Welcome to the 2021 Strong Start to Finish Learning Network Convening, Transformation Over Time. I'm Brian Sponsler, Vice President of Policy at Education Commission of the States. It's wonderful to see each of you. While we aren't able to gather in person, I'm looking forward to engaging with the collection of state and system leaders, technical assistance providers, researchers and scholars, and of course, our philanthropic supporters who have joined us here for our event. Let me start with a heartfelt thank you for attending this year's virtual convening. I know that all of our schedules are overwhelmed with Zoom meetings, webinars, and opportunities for virtual connections. But the fact that you have brought your talents, your perspectives, and your passions here to this community, to our community, is notable. Please know how much I personally appreciate your engagement over the next 2 days. This year's convening is a milestone for many of us. I know it is for me. Last year's event in Miami was the last time I traveled. Took a flight, used a drink ticket, opened my Uber app, and casually hung out with people outside of my personal pod. Heck, we didn't even have that terminology, personal pod. If I'd asked any of you to join my personal pod last year in Miami, I'm not sure how that conversation would have gone. At this time last year, we would have all been checking in at our registration desk. We were looking forward to sitting by the pool on a warm Miami evening, wondering what the Strong Start to Finish signature cocktail would be for 2020. We were crowding around buffet tables together and sharing meals. We were learning and leading from and with peers in sessions. We were drinking Cuban coffee, and we were even eating fried chicken. We hope to be back there next year. But today, from our homes, our remote offices, wherever it is you're joining us from, we are snacking on these and drinking our own brews. Yes, much has changed in the world and in our work since we last gathered in March of 2020. We've experienced the deep and individual pain and frustration of a global health crisis that has entered its second year. We've unnecessarily suffered too much loss in too many places for too many of our family members, neighbors, friends, and colleagues. And as a nation, we've faced the latest reckoning with long-standing social inequality and structural and individual racism. We still hold the hope that the passion and attention to injustice this time will translate into action that brings us closer to the promise of social equality for all. And we've come through this and more together, demonstrating our resiliency as a network. We've continued to engage with one another, stay committed to our work plans, always remain focused on students, and transformed our work in developmental education. From adjustments to placement policies in the absence of assessments and traditional measures, to fully online co-rec delivery models, from faculty professional development we've re-engineered to support the lived experiences of faculty and students in today's environment, some of which we know will become new normative practice for us. We've improved things even during these challenging times. We've engaged new colleagues and peers across the network and closed the distances between us that we have habitually allowed to be dictated by geography. It is my hope that these new virtual connections will sustain over time and bring additional allies and support into our shared work. We have persevered together, and through that perseverance, we've continued to transform the policy, practice, and scholarship addressing developmental education. We've aimed this transformation squarely at building more equitable systems of post-secondary education that explicitly do a better job of supporting and ensuring the success of our Indigenous, Black, Latinx, and low-income students. That process of transformation, which has arced over our 3 years together as a network, has certainly accelerated since we last gathered in Miami. And it is that transformative spirit in which we come together today to start this year's convening, as we continue to move as a network towards our ultimate goal of ensuring that students get access to and are successfully moving through math and English credit-bearing courses in their first year of study. And to speak to this transformative spirit, I'd like to now introduce a few members of our Strong Start to Finish community who will share via video with us some of their ideas about how we have and how we must continue to transform together in pursuit of our collective goals.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Welcome. My name is Rahim Rajan. I'm the Funder Advisory Board Chair. I'm a Deputy Director at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I want to just express, first of all, my deep thanks and support and admiration for the work we have done as a collective, across the leaders in the field, on the campuses, at the institutions, at the state systems, the partners, the organizations leading this work on the ground, providing technical assistance, providing leadership, providing research support, evaluation support, interrogating the data, helping us learn and improve this work, this critical work, and as well as my fellow funders and philanthropists who it's been a tremendous honor to be the chair of this community. I think it's incredible how our practice is also transformed and shifted over the last 3 to 5 years. I think when I think about where we started this work and the different approaches, the different perspectives we've had, it's really significant that over these past few years, we have aligned on a shared vision. We have aligned on not only contributing towards a shared assets and shared partners and networks, but we've actually been able to go beyond that to pool our funding and to allow that trust to exist with us and with our partners to really catalyze and enable the field to achieve the kind of progress and targeted approach that was necessary and that was highly adaptive, that we couldn't have scripted ourselves. We're telling a collective story now. We're not telling a story as individual funders, individual organizations, foundations. We have joined together to really focus our efforts, our expertise, our capital on solving a shared problem and a shared challenge that our nation faces. We're measuring the same things. We are looking at data together. We are looking at the same metrics. We're asking for the same data from the partners, from the organizations. So all of those to me reflect the kind of transformation we've also undertaken as funders. And I think for many of us that have worked in this field in philanthropy, in post-secondary philanthropy, as part of this reform movement, we know how rare and how unique that kind of a relationship is as a set of funders, as a set of partners. So I just want to commend ECS and all of you here together for the tremendous work we're doing. I remain optimistic and committed to this work. I think we have enormous more to do together, and I'm excited for the work we have to do together. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Judy Marquez Kiyama, and I've had the privilege of working with Strong Start to Finish as an equity consultant. The research on developmental education is clear. For those students who begin their post-secondary experiences being funneled into DevEd courses, their opportunities for achievement to and through are exponentially reduced. And we know that students of color, Black, Indigenous, Latinx students, low income, and returning adults are disproportionately impacted. That is the equity imperative that Strong Start to Finish aims to address. Through large-scale, system-wide initiatives, the commitment to transformation is to change educational outcomes and opportunity for students who systemically and historically have not been served by our educational institutions, and to reform the system itself. How? By engaging and spurring growth, both individually and collectively, across an entire reform network. By recognizing that system-wide change cannot happen if we aren't clear about who it impacts, the ways in which our very language and practices can continue to position these students as deficits rather than assets, moving to possibilities of liberation. To engage data to further help illustrate the gaps, define and refine the equity imperative, and to hold us accountable for the steps we still need to take. And by reiterating that representation at every step matters, across race, ethnicity, gender, and language. By integrating culturally responsive practices across service delivery, institutional or state policy, and practice, and by investing and committing to structural resources across time, space, people, and finances. Operationalizing equity requires us to continue to evolve every day, to critically examine how we approach these efforts, and to commit to reimagining the possibilities of education for minoritized populations.
Hello, I'm Nikki Edgecomb. I'm a senior research scholar at the Community College Research Center. As a developmental education researcher, it's been rewarding to see the body of evidence on developmental education reform grow over the last decade in particular. Findings from studies on co-requisite models and multiple measures placement systems show these reforms are materially improving student short-term academic outcomes, and many of them are cost-effective as well. Critically, large numbers of states, systems, and institutions are implementing evidence-based reforms. From these settings, we're learning more about the range of opportunities and challenges associated with effective implementation. Research in these settings is also helping to surface unintended consequences, like racial disparities in access to reforms and in outcomes. We can't take our eye off the ball. More work needs to be done to support the adoption and effective implementation of these developmental education reforms. We also can't stop innovating. With each advance comes new considerations, and the research community stands with you to ensure we generate the knowledge that policymakers and practitioners need to not just maintain, but to accelerate the progress the field has made. Let's use our time together at this convening to keep driving that transformation forward.
I'm Jeremy Anderson, President of the Education Commission of the States and the proud home of the Strong Start to Finish initiative. I can tell you that state-level policy folks across the country have been and remain, even in these challenging times, committed to addressing developmental education policy. And they're doing so within the framework of their overall state approach to all student success. We've really seen states transform from seeing developmental ed as a standalone issue to a key strategic set of reforms that states are leveraging as an integrated part of their approach to post-secondary policy. All of this work is part of a larger effort to help states ensure that they are developing the necessary policies and, just as important, the funding policies to support student success, particularly for historically marginalized and underserved students. I can tell you that before the pandemic, I traveled around the country, and during this pandemic, I'm seeing elected officials virtually, and state leaders in legislatures and governor's offices are inquiring about Strong Start to Finish and the lessons we're learning. Even in states that aren't a formal part of this initiative, leaders are paying attention and they're remaining interested in the work the network is doing to find success for all students. Keep up the great work, as students across the country are counting on your success with these developmental ed policy initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, Nikki, Judy, and Rahim, for sharing your thoughts with us. Your insights speak to the opportunities and challenges we have in front of us to continue to transform as a network to build more equitable systems of post-secondary education. So here we are. I'm hoping this is a meaningful conference for everyone and that you use your time here well. Whether this is your first learning convening or your third, please keep in mind, this is your meeting. And as we get underway, a few logistics to keep top of mind so you can get the most out of your time here with your colleagues. Throughout the meeting, our event platform will be available. There you can see who's in attendance and access resources that are aligned with our sessions. You can also watch video previews of some of the Strong Start to Finish work to come. We also encourage you to connect with your peers, which you can do through the networking feature on the portal. We've intentionally blocked out 2-hour windows before and after each day's program and have some dedicated time on the schedule tomorrow so that you can connect with attendees. We know that many of us are juggling many distractions during this time, But to help us have an engaging conversation with our panelists and session presenters, we ask that you do keep your video monitor on as much as possible. And if at any time you need help, please just let us know. You can reach out to anyone on our team via the contact section of the portal. And finally, during the next few days, please join the social conversation at Strong Start to Finish LNC 2021. I'll post a live tweet of this talk right now. So that's it. We will be ending this opening session and transitioning to hearing from our scaling site leaders about some of the successes and learnings that they've had in their work to date. Make sure you join that session from your agenda in the Pathable platform. Welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon.